I'm Mike Costello, and I'm here with Dr. Iris Freelander. And today we're going to talk about why all things are possible. That's a wonderful statement, isn't it, Iris?
Yes, indeed it is. And it gives us encouragement and hope when we are in the process of perhaps not having as much as we would like. But it's all in our own minds and it's all in our faith. Wouldn't you say that it's primarily in our faith?
In our faith and our thoughts, the way that we think. So often we talk about the fact that we live in our minds and not in the world. And as we're able to combine those two things of faith and thought, then tremendous things begin to happen.
Yes, they do. And it's up to us. We can go to the people who help us, and there are many types of those who help us, but it all depends on our own initiative, primarily our initiative, but also our outlook on life makes all the difference in the world. And of course, if we think nothing is possible, then nothing is possible. If we think all things are, then all things are. And we had that promise from our divine way shower. With God, all things are possible.
Mm-hmm. And we have this limitless capacity of mind and thought that is really a tremendous gift that we have. And you and I spend a lot of time counseling and talking with people and helping them to examine their lives and to motivate their behavior in a positive way. And it's interesting, isn't it, how often people seem to not have a conscious awareness of the fact that our thoughts can actually be directed in a specific way.
Yes, and again, we limit ourselves just as much as we want to, or we give ourselves every potential as much as we wish. But there are those who need a little impetus from others. And I know, as you said, we both do quite a lot of counseling, and I've observed that so many people have, without exception, could solve their own problems if they wished. They just need someone else to listen and validate what they're thinking of doing. And it's very thrilling for me to see, and I'm sure it is for you, to see people step forward and take their own lives in their hands and like take back their own power, take back their own lives and get on with their lives. And I don't mean to hurt other people in the process, but just to dare to do what they wish to have happen in their lives. And that's that's our subject today, to dare to do what we wish to have happen.
Mhm. You led a group for, I guess, for a number of years on Take Back Your Power, didn't you?
Yes.
And had some wonderful results.
Yes, that was every Wednesday evening at our church for quite a long time, more than 4 years. And it was just a marvelous experience because I saw so many people's lives change. And sure, they had problems after that. No one ever goes through life without problems. But they were so many were able to make the changes, just what we were talking about earlier, able to make the changes that they wanted in their lives because they dared to. And that's one problem with not, we have all grown away from our families. I wouldn't say all, but many of us have. Well, I know I'm speaking for myself. My primary family, besides my own children, live in Kentucky. And it's really, and someone said, I was thinking today about someone saying to me, Iris, you are a root shredder. And I thought that was a very hurtful thing to say because it's true. I moved my family this halfway across the country, but I didn't think I was shredding their roots. I thought I was just setting up in a new area, but you can do that without shredding your roots. You can go on to something new without denying the validity of what's in our past or what we're immediately leaving. So we're not saying to people to throw out everything that was in the past and take on something new and big and different and show that all things are possible, but just to grow and flow with life so that we proceed in a lovely way instead of just and not to hurt anyone else in the process.
Excuse me, I think it is important for us to always remember that we are going to have difficulties and we are going to have challenges. And so often, as I talk to people, They want to know how I can avoid the problems or the difficulties. And we don't spend much time talking about how to avoid the difficulties. We talk a lot about how to deal with the difficulties and the challenges of life. And as we're able to deal with the challenges, as we're empowered to deal with the challenges, as we see the possibilities within the challenges, then we're able to grow through the experience. And I think that was kind of the impetus of your program of Take Back Your Power, and not feeling that life is just tossing us to and fro in terms of what's happening. In fact, a lot of things happen to all of us in our lives, but as those things happen to us, we respond in our minds and in our feelings and in our emotions in terms of the way that we respond.
Yes, and so we can be true to ourselves, but also be true to all the people around us. But just to make our own plan for our own lives and then follow that plan. And this is what whoever makes those changes, that's what they do. They make their plan and follow it, but they don't deliberately hurt anyone else in the process. And I think that's very important, that we're not saying to just go helter-skelter into new and different things, but we're saying have the courage of your convictions to go about your life in the way you want it to flow and dare make changes, because we know that we're all going to face changes, whether we plan them or whether we don't. The changes are going to occur. And so if we can make our own changes as we go through life, then we are ahead of the game.
It has a lot to do with personal responsibility, doesn't it?
Yes, it
And
does.
fundamental to what we teach in metaphysics and New Thought philosophy is personal accountability and personal responsibility. And that's not to say that we're isolated and that we can't rely upon our circle of friends and family and those around us. But in fact, we do have a tremendous amount, or we do need to take upon ourselves a tremendous amount of personal responsibility.
That's correct. And we need the reassurance of the people around us, whether it's just like in school, we need to have the reassurance of our classmates and that our teachers are on our side and so forth. And in work, that our superiors, as well as the people we work with, are with us and we're not, and we're cohesive. And so, and then the same thing is true in family, or in when we not try, but when we start a new endeavor, then we have to be, it's like you said, self-responsible. When we accept that we're going to assume self-responsibility, but we're going to include others in our plan as necessary and as they wish to be included. Well, life can be, for example, like an adventure, and let's make it an adventure would be a good mantra for anyone to have, because life is an adventure, and I know you live your life that way to a very great extent. And people who live their lives that way dare to make new and different changes in their lives. And we don't have to make we don't all have to make the same changes. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that whatever seems appropriate as a change in our life, then dare to do it and then be responsible for those changes.
Right, and having the willingness to make those changes. And often changes come about in our lives not by our own choosing. You know, I think in terms of today's environment, or in any time when we speak about people who've lost jobs or relationships that end or challenges that people have in their workplace or in their families. And a lot of those are not of our own making, but we always have a choice in terms of how we respond to them and to those circumstances. And then as we take personal responsibility, or as we take responsibility, we really build upon the confidence level that we have in our own abilities. And therein lies, I think, the key, because so often I'm thinking of people who've come over the years, and one particular group of people that I'm speaking to right now that are in transition in their employment. And the one thing that comes through clearer and clearer as I talk to people about changes in employment, these are people who have been laid off. And some of them have been involved in their company for a very long time, some for less time. But the interesting thing is that almost universally, thankfully not universally, but almost universally, they lack the confidence to believe that they're going to find a better job, and they begin the process of allowing the dynamic of their mind to move in a negative way, beginning to say, I've lost my job, now I've lost my livelihood, how am I going to pay my rent or my mortgage? How will I take care of my children? And this negative aspect of self and self-image and self-ability limits the possibilities that can come into all of these people's lives. And one of the things that we're doing is spending some time working with each of them and then with them as a group in the understanding that they all have so much to offer. And within the context of what they have traditionally done, or maybe it's a time to do something different, but they have tremendous abilities, and we need to build and strengthen our own faith, as we talked about at the beginning of the program, our faith in ourselves and our own ability. And that doesn't at all take or detract from the faith that we have in the presence and power of God. It has to do with the faith that we have within our own innate ability to be able to cope with difficulties and challenges, and also to be able to be guided and directed in new and wonderful ways.
Yes, and when people do that, they always find a better job. They always see that when a job ends, when some aspect of life ends, then something more wonderful and better is there for them. But that's hard to see, and our hearts go out to those people who face that problem, because it is a very critical and serious problem, and it creates probably greater fear than anything else in our lives except the loss of a loved one. And so we're not negating the importance of that in their lives, but we're saying that if they look at life in that possibility thinking way, then they'll see many new possibilities. And then they'll see they have choices.
Fears are valid.
Yes.
And, we say so often, feel the way that you feel. Don't deny the way that you feel. But if you're fearful, if an individual's fearful about their circumstance or situation, then that is a red flag, so to speak, that there's a different way of thinking about it. And I'm thinking now, as we're talking about this issue of loss of job, and as you say, losing jobs, ending relationships, the death of loved ones, those are traumatic events and very, very difficult, and we don't want to minimize them at all. But I think of someone, and I've told this story before at church and in lectures, where a woman who was totally dependent upon herself for her livelihood, had had a job for many years, and lost her job, and she had no ability to stay here in Long Beach any longer, and she was forced to go and live with her sister in Chicago. And of course, she and her sister didn't get along, never had gotten along, and so she went to Chicago. Didn't want to be in Chicago, didn't want to be with her sister. She and her sister reconciled because they had to live in a relatively small apartment, but she got another job that she enjoyed even more than the job that she enjoyed here. And then she met a man and she married, and she was at a point in life when she never thought she would marry. And so here she resolved a lot of difficulties and problems just through that transition. And of course, it was traumatic. But years later, after the event, she wrote me, and we shared this information, that so many good things came. She reconciled with her sister. She got a better job. She found a husband. So good things.
That's such a lovely example. And it's such a delicious way for that lady to see her life change. And everyone can have that same experience. We just have to have the courage and the patience and the fortitude to face whatever it is, and then see our choices, and then go ahead with that new choice. And we can see, when we look at life in that way, we can see that we always have many choices, but we think when we're that it's an abyss, when we're facing the end of something, we think that's really the end of everything in life. When if we just look at it with a different air, a different attitude, then we can be like that lady.
Absolutely, and believe that there are possibilities in the process. We'd like to pause at this point in the program and offer you the opportunity to receive some literature so that you can continue to study the ideas and concepts that we're sharing with you.
We would like to offer you the opportunity to receive one of these free booklets to further your understanding of the New Thought message of confident living. Each month we will feature a different booklet, which will be mailed to you free and postage paid. Simply address your request to Confident Living at P.O. Box 7726, Long Beach, California, 90807.
So we do need to have confidence, don't we? How do we do that?
Yeah. Well, confidence comes as born of faith. And if we have faith in ourselves and faith in our fellow man and faith in God, then First of all, we need that spiritual undergirding. And if we have that, I think we can face anything in life. And we've seen that happen in everyone's life, including our own. So when we have that faith, then we have the peace that passeth all understanding. And when we have that peaceful aspect of being, then we are secure and we're self reliant and we dare go into uncharted territory. And that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Absolutely. And when we talk about faith and faith differences, we always say it has nothing to do with the philosophy or the faith that we talk about. It doesn't matter what one's faith tradition is, one's religion. These are universal principles that are applicable to all people. We're not talking about asking anyone to change anything about their faith or their religious belief, but we are asking people and we're challenging people to change their way of thinking and their way of responding to circumstances and situations, and believing that there are new possibilities and there are limitless possibilities for every event that takes place in our lives. And our lives will be filled with happy times and with challenging times. And to know that these limitless possibilities exist within our own mind and within our own creative ability builds within us a stamina and a strength that allows us to take back that power that we were talking about earlier.
Yes, and I think every religion tells us that whatsoever you shall ask in prayer, believing, you shall receive. And it would say it in different words in each different religion, but I'm sure they all say that because that's true, isn't it? It's the believing aspect that's so important.
Absolutely. And you just touched on prayer, and we talk always so often about prayer and meditation. So before time gets away, as we look at the possibilities of life and we look at the fact that all things are indeed possible in life, we really need to sometimes move our focus or our vision or our view away from the problem or the challenge of life and clear our way of thinking. And we do that so often by meditation, don't we?
Yes, that's true. And also, we can get answers in meditation. Meditation is not just one modality of being. Meditation is a lot of different things. We can meditate just for serenity and just find that peaceful core within and flow with that, and it works wonders in our lives. But we can also ask questions in our meditation. And I think that's one of the most valuable things, aspects of life, is to be able to ask questions and hear those answers. And the answers come perhaps through our own high self, perhaps from the inner planes of being. It wouldn't matter where they originated. The point is, we know from experience that it works, and we can ask those questions and get the answers and then follow through with them. And I could give 100 examples in a minute in my own life where that's worked, because I think all of us who meditate have experienced the grandeur and the wonder of having our answers come to us during that time. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. And talk a little bit for the benefit of those who are watching about our higher self. So often you and I and people in New Thought and metaphysics use these terms that I think sometimes are not familiar to other people, but that's a wonderful concept, and we believe it and teach it.
Yes, we do. And we have our physical aspect of being and the spiritual aspect of being. Or we might say we have the conscious, when we're talking about working from our minds. We have the conscious mind, the subconscious, and the supra-conscious. And so when we work from the higher aspect of our own beinghood, we're working from the supra-consciousness of life. And so as we work from that, we're really attuning ourselves to the divine. The divine within attunes itself to the divine aspect of the whole aspect of being. And we say divine God indwelling, but we're not saying that, excuse me, we are God. We're saying we are a part of God, and indeed we are. And it's like we are a flame of God, and not a spark, but a flame. And then a flame, not a flame. And so as we work from that aspect of our own beinghood, we are really attuned to the divine whole. And as we are, that's how we're able to just get enlightenment from and answers to our questions. And one thing that happened with me, well, many things have happened in my own meditations, but I've asked questions that are life-changing for me to why are certain people acting the way they do? Why am I in the circumstance that I am? And I've, like all other people in life, I've had my share of problems. And so the answers have come so clearly, it couldn't be from any other source except the divine, because or that my own high self is touching with that aspect of being that's beyond our own physical aspect of being. And so as we do that and trust it, then we're guided. And we can ask in our dreams. If we're not able to trust that, then we can ask in our dreams. And very often dreams will reveal, and that's because we're coming from our own high self of being, aspect of being. And so those dreams will reveal. But very often the dreams come coded, so we have to know the symbolism. And so we have to know what those symbols mean. And Dr. Carl Jung gave us to me, the very best interpretation of dreams. And he said that there's 4 different types of dreams, but the dream where we're having information revealed to us, well, the person dreaming will take on the part of every person in the dream, and that's hard for people to discern too sometimes when they're new at that. But we need to work at life and enjoy it, and again, make it an adventure. So and just know that things will work out well because we're doing our best.
And it's not complicated, is it?
No.
You know, so often people think this is so complicated, and especially people who maybe don't come from our tradition or our background or our faith will say, oh, but Mike, it seems so complicated. But in fact, it's not complicated at all. But it seems complicated because some of the concepts and ideas are really so very basic and so very fundamental and so universally applicable that as we look at this information and receive it, it seems to be so complicated when in fact it's not. I mean, the very things that we're talking about are simply centering ourselves, being in a peaceful state, getting control of how it is we're feeling, but not being controlling about it.
Exactly.
And getting in touch with the way that we feel, trusting the fact that there is a divine energy and a divine source, not judging people, not expecting everyone to believe the way that we believe. All of those things are basic and fundamental to what we teach and what we're about. And all of those things are empowering and freeing and create within individuals this limitless concept of their own possibilities for life and for the enjoyment of it. And you touched upon something that is so important. Life is fun, and it's meant to be, and it's meant to be enjoyable. But unfortunately, there are so many people who aren't enjoying a minute of it.
Exactly. Well, you can go to a playground where children are playing and see those children enjoying, just enjoying. And it's such a sad, there's nothing more sad on earth than to see children who are not enjoying life, to see children who are unhappy. And that is, if there's ever anything, this total error of thought, it's allowing that to happen in any child's life for the adults who are responsible for that child. But usually, almost always, you see these children playing, and they're playing so freely, and they run and play, and they laugh, and they look out at people with such trust, and it's just inspiring to see. I would think if anyone is despondent about their own circumstances in life, then just go to a playground and watch the children play, or invite a child into your home and just be with that child, or volunteer someplace where children are, because there's any number of ways we can be in contact with children, or if we have children in our own family, then we can, then that is wonderful. But that we can just be as a little child, and when we are as a little child in our thinking, we're trusting, we're happy, we explore, we look into everything around us, and we generally mind our own business.
And we have fun. You know,
Yes.
children have fun. And, you know, as you were talking, one of the things I was thinking about is a simple exercise that I use often when I talk with people, and that is if we would write down the things that we enjoy doing, write down 2 or 3 or 4 things, 5 is better, but write them down, and then write down when the last time you did each of those things. And it's interesting because most people don't do what they like, what they enjoy. And so many of us have enjoyments in life, but we don't celebrate them. We don't do the things that make life fun for us. So we're too busy doing what we think we're expected to do and placing demands upon ourselves that aren't real at all. And in fact, we cheat ourselves from the enjoyable experiences of life.
Yes, and we forget so much of what we came here to do. And we came here we came to Earth to remember, and if we meditate and pray and meditate, and really put our thoughts in order, then we are remembering things that we knew. And that's one of the most, to me, most remarkably wonderful things, aspects of life, is to remember things from other lives, from the past. Remember what we've experienced in the past. And when we do, and I think children are, again, children are just, they're not just remembering, they're just not letting, they're not being encumbered. They're unencumbered with the past. I suppose that's it, isn't it?
It is. And they're connected with the present moment. That present time is something that we don't have a lot of time to talk about today, but being centered in the present moment and allowing themselves to be free and enjoy the process of life. And it doesn't mean that they don't fall down and get hurt. It doesn't mean that they don't cry. You know, so often we're as adults, we're trying to avoid the pain. Well, let's not avoid the pain. Let's endure the pain and come out of it because of the great possibilities that we have. And I think we need to get in touch with that and understand it.
Yes, to rise beyond the pain so that it no longer touches us. And again, people who are in extreme pain would say, well, how she can say that, but how would she know how I feel? Well, we all know how other people feel to an extent, but we can never put ourselves into another person's place, and we wouldn't even try, would we? Because we know that each circumstance is different. But when the people those who are listening to us right now, I hope that they would just use the examples that we've given, and I would hope that they would just not feel despondent and let the depression go, and just look at life again as an adventure, so that they know they have control of their own lives.
What a wonderful, magnificent way to end the program and to look at the possibilities of life. We hope that the information that we've shared with you has been useful, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Mike and Iris would like to extend a cordial invitation for you to join them this Sunday morning at 11 a.m. for our weekly celebration service at the beautiful Seaport Marina Hotel at the corner of Pacific Coast Highway and 2nd Street, adjacent to the Marina Pacifica and Marketplace shopping centers. There will be a guided meditation, prayers, spirited music, and a dynamic, life-changing New Thought message. Please join us this Sunday. You will be warmly welcomed into the company of like-minded, positive, and uplifting people. And remember, whatever your dream, whatever your vision, you can attain it through confident living.